Good morning, this is Sir Jeff, and welcome to our class. This is EDUC 105, Facilitating Learner-Centered Teaching. And for today's session, this will be our activities. So first, we are going to have our preliminaries, and then we will have the quiz we take on the theories of learning, which we had a discussion last time, and a lecture through the YouTube streaming that will be done in 1 hour and 10 minutes, followed by the reading of module for self-reflection for 20 minutes. And after the 20-minute reading of module, we are going to have our discussion, and this will be accomplished through the oral recitation using Zoom teleconferencing. So I hope that everybody will take part in this discussion. So whatever questions or activities you see in your module, it's the same question that we are going to raise during the oral recitation. That's for 40 minutes. And then afterwards, we are going to have the evaluation using the NEO LMS assignment tab. That's for 40 minutes. And the remaining 10 minutes will be used for feedback. Okay, what will be our lesson for today? So for today, we're going to tackle two important topics. First, we're going to compare child, adolescent, and adult learning. So this lesson will give us a hint, a background, an overview about the type of learning and the nature of learning that exists in a child, in adolescent, and in an adult learner. So this is very important so teachers would know how to approach teaching. Remember that teaching should not be the same. It should depend, or the way we teach should depend on the developmental stage of our learner, whether the learner is a child, an adolescent, or an adult. This will be followed by our second topic, which refers to the categories of knowledge. So later we will detail one by one the different types of knowledge. Again, we talk about knowledge because this is facilitating. The course is facilitating learner-centered teaching. And when we speak about learning, we talk about knowledge. So these are my references for this session, and the content of the slides are sourced from these books. Okay, what will be our objectives for this session? First, to compare child and adolescent and adult learning. Second, to categorize knowledge according to type, whether declarative, procedural, and functional. Aside from these categories that are on your screen, we will have a discussion also on other categories of knowledge for us to have a wide understanding about knowledge. And lastly, of course, which is very crucial and very important as we are in the field of teaching and you are aspiring teachers, to relate these topics based on their pedagogical implications. So how would these topics, how would this discussion, this lecture affect teaching? And how should we use them into teaching? Okay, this will be our session outline. For lesson 2, child and adolescent and adult learning, we'll discuss about the principles of cognitive development, the nature of adult, adolescent, and the child or the children in your classroom, or how they learn. And of course, the educational implications. Well, on the next lesson, we're going to define knowledge. Okay, we're also going to discuss the categories of knowledge, the educational implications of knowledge acquisition, like how do we acquire knowledge? What do expert learners use or do in order for them to become fluent in knowledge acquisition? And lastly, to apply appropriate strategies for developing knowledge. So this last subtopic will help teachers to realize on the different activities which we can do to help learners acquire knowledge and for us to facilitate learning. So this will be our take first. It says here, It says here, teachers have to expect that patterns of growth and development differ from one developmental stage to the other and from one learner to the other. So I would like you to bear in mind, okay, at this point, that individual differences exist, and we know that very well. That's a common knowledge. And because of this individual differences, we differ in terms of learning pace. We differ in terms of learning style, and we differ in terms of how we view the world. Therefore, teachers must understand that the way we approach teaching should be individualized. The more that it should be it should be understood that learning from one level or from one stage going to the other should be treated differently. Like a child cannot be compared to an adolescent, and an adolescent learner cannot be compared to an adult learner. So we use different techniques, we use different approach depending on, I repeat, the level of the learner and the special consideration on the stage of human development, whether a child, an adolescent, or an adult learner. So let's start with the first topic, the principles of cognitive development. So these are the four basic principles of cognitive development. First one, it says development proceeds in an orderly and predictable pattern. This means that it should be expected that they come in orders, just like in language learning. You learn one syllable word before learning how to pronounce the word, then moving to learning how to pronounce the phrase, and then to sentences, and then your ability to converse in a longer discourse. So that's in sequence. It's expected that this type of development, this language development, for example, it comes in sequence. So this is not true only in language development. It's true in many aspects of development. So I repeat, number one, development proceeds in an orderly and predictable pattern. Okay, expect that, and we should assume that. Therefore, there are certain tasks that a child can do, that an adolescent can do, and an adult can do. Given this principle, we should understand as teachers that we cannot force or we cannot expect abstract reasoning as those adult learners that should be similar to the children, okay, to the young learners. Expect that, because adult learners gain more experiences than this young learners. Okay, so remember, it comes in an orderly and predictable pattern. Second, there are periods of rapid growth, spurts, in between periods of slower growth. We could say that a learner during the early childhood, they grow rapidly, okay? But then at some point, okay, at some instances, when they move to the adolescent years, you would notice that cognitively, little by little, they lose interest, okay? So we need to consider this aspect in order for us to know how to adjust our strategies. That's why we cannot apply those teaching strategies we use for children to the adolescent learners, or else they will get bored. Okay, so one advice I could give would be to know where your learners are, especially the adolescent learners, and then start from there. You should know what interests them the most. Okay, so if it's about technology, if it's about digital learning that interests them, then you adjust. You retool your skill as a teacher. Okay, so this is not only something physical. Okay, for principle number two, it has something to do with the cognitive aspect too. So again, principle number two, there are periods of rapid growth spurts in between periods of slower growth. Okay, and this is noticeable especially for instance, the female learners in terms of physical growth. during childhood, they are really taller than the male learners. But upon reaching adolescent, or when yung phrase na sinasabing when puberty hits you, okay, you would notice that male learners would grow rapidly during their adolescent years or during their period of puberty. Okay, that's another example for principle number 2. Next, principle number 3, different individuals develop at different rates. And it's understandable, just like what I mentioned a while back, we have individual differences in terms of nature, in terms of nourishment, the way we nourish our body. We also have different cultural background and a lot of factors in which we are different. So expect that learning from one child to the other, from one learner to the other, not only child, it could be adolescent or adult, will differ because we have this individual differences. Again, emphasizing on principle number 3, different individuals develop at different rates. Next, principle number 4, development is continually affected by both nature and nurture. So when we say nature here, it refers to heredity. It refers to your genetic composition, and we cannot control it. That's something that is not within our control. So what will be the control of the teacher? That's the second one. That's nurture, or referring to the environment. If we provide a better environment, a safe environment, a conducive, learning conducive environment to our learner, then we provide nourishment. Okay, we nourish the child. So this, it means to say development is not only about nature, it's not only about genetic composition, okay? It's also about nourishment. So these two are equally important, okay, when it comes to cognitive development. Okay, I repeat, these are the 4 principles of cognitive development, which we should always consider when we design our curriculum, when we provide activities to our learners, when we approach teaching and learning. Okay, next, we move to the nature of adult learning and its educational implications. So ano-ano nga ba yung mga katangian na unique, okay, sa mga adult learners? Okay, especially if you will be teaching in high school, you will need, of course, adult learners, and in college, okay, plus postgraduate studies. Now, if in case you will be in that position, okay, as their teacher, what to do? That's the question now. What should you do? How do you approach? How do you communicate with this people, with this type of learner? So let's have number 1. So these are the nature, I'd like to correct the spelling, the nature of adult learners, okay? First, they have this what we call self-concept. So what do we mean by self-concept? So when we say self-concept class, it means they have their own independence when it comes to learning. So adult learners can direct their own learning. No need to impose, no need to force, okay? Because these people are already adult, they are already responsible, they know what they are doing most of the time, okay? Commonly expected. So when dealing with them, assume that they can direct their own learning. They have this what we call self-concept, okay? They are more of the intrinsic motivation. They are intrinsically motivated. So once they enroll to school, definitely these people are what we call more independent, or shall we label them independent learners compared to child and adolescent learners who need a lot of guidance. But for this type of learners, I repeat, they can direct their own learning. Second, the adult learner has this what we call experience, okay? So they can draw a lot from their accumulated experience as a resource for learning. So expected that because of age, because of their of the stage they are in, they already gain a lot of experiences and a lot of life lessons, okay? They already met a lot of people, okay? They are already exposed with a lot of situations that made them learn, okay? So when you discuss, do not dominate the lecture or do not dominate the session. As a teacher, knowing that you have adult learners, bear in mind that you can also source from these people, let them share, okay? And you will be surprised that when you let them share, you will also learn from these people. Okay, that's another advantage of having an adult learner. They have this wide range of experience to share, okay, to the class. So they can use that as a resource for learning. And you assume also that these people are the wisest learner because of experience. Okay, next, number 3. Uh, Adult learners have this what we call readiness to learn. Like what I've said, they are intrinsically motivated. Since they are already adults, they are already responsible, they already know the consequences of their actions. So they are more ready to accept learning. Okay. Next, number 4, orientation to learning. So these people are problem centered and they want to apply learning immediately. Okay, when say problem-centered, when you give activities, it's more of raising questions or activities that involve higher order thinking skills like abstract reasoning. Okay? Hindi na uso sa kanila masyading memorization, enumeration, like basic recall. For this adult learners, they want to, since they want to share their knowledge too, and they have this what we call accumulated experience, the best approach, the common approach when teaching adult learners would be on abstract reasoning, would be on justification, would be on explanation about principles, about life, about lessons. Okay, so that's the 4th. What about the last one? Last nature of adult learners. They have this what we call motivation to learn. So they are more on internal, I repeat, internal or intrinsic motivation, that even without a reward, okay, a physical reward from the teacher, they would learn. Okay, they would even exert effort to learn, not only inside your room but also outside, because I repeat, these are adult learners. So these are the common nature or traits of the adult learners, and we should take this 5 into consideration when teaching our adult learners. Now, how does an adult learn? First, they are more disciplined. Okay, since these are adult learners we're dealing with, expect that they have this sense of compliance, they have this sense of vigilance. Okay, sometimes they complain too because they know their rights, they have their principles. Okay, I repeat, they are more disciplined, so hindi na sila yung pinagbabawalan pa. Okay, at wag nating silang ipapahiya when we are inside the classroom, because these are adult learners. Do not call the attention of this type of learner, this adult learner, okay, using the same way of calling the attention of a child learner or a young learner or an adolescent learner, kasi they have this what we call pride already, sense of pride. And since they are adults, mahirap, okay, masakit para sa kanila ang mapahiya. Next, they have a clear understanding of the learning objectives, so they could comprehend in that because these are adult people with a wide range of experiences. They are also involved in choosing what and how to learn. Ayan, since they could speak out their mind, these people are very opinionated. You could ask these people how they would like to conduct the session. Okay, how would they like to do the activity? I repeat, there's no, or there is less imposition from the teacher when it comes to teaching adult learners. You should not impose. You should be sensitive with this type of learners, because they can decide on their own. In terms of decision making, that's what we mean here. In terms of decision making, they could deliver it better for themselves because they know what's good for themselves already. They already know their capacities. They already know their strengths and weaknesses. Okay. Next, they are reliant on themselves using their own pace. So the theory or the principle of existentialism really applies here. Okay, let them discover, let them learn, okay, using their own pace, using their own understanding. And I repeat, I'd like to emphasize adult learners are independent learners that even without the guidance of the teacher, direct guidance of the teacher, if they would like to learn something, they could learn something. Okay? That's why we expect that from college students and postgraduate school students. Okay? Kaya madalas nakikita nyo, they are doing reports. Okay? They are doing presentation in front of the class. Okay? The teacher would give the topic and then the teacher would let this adult learners discuss in front because it is assumed that they have this what we call independence when it comes to learning. Okay, next, they have a wide range of knowledge, expectations, and experiences. So no need to emphasize on this phrase and this trait because it was already discussed a while back. Okay, they can do a wide range of activities. I repeat, independent learners with accumulated experience, wide range of experience, so they could deliver a lot, okay? What they can do at this point, if you're classified as an adult, should be diverse, okay? Like at this point, if I will study again, I will be considered as an adult learner. Of course, it's expected that I could deliver a lot in terms of speaking, in terms of writing, in terms of reasoning, okay, compared to those learners who are classified as child or adolescent. Next, learns at various rates in different ways based on intellectual ability, educational level, personality, and cognitive learning styles. So I repeat, at this point, if you're an adult learner, you already discovered your learning style, your learning ability, your ways on how to learn. So you already have this concept of deciding what to do with the lesson. So you are given now the opportunity to decide as an adult learner. Yun yung gagawin ng teacher. Give them the opportunity, give them the freedom on how they would like to learn something and how they would like to deliver an activity. Okay? Since they already have a concept of their own learning styles. Okay? Okay, let's move to the second one. That's the nature of the adolescent learning and its educational implications. First, how does an adolescent learn? How does an adolescent learn? Okay, remember this one that when they learn, they are in search for, at this stage, okay, these are adolescent people, they are in search for personal identity. Ayan, dito yung mga stage na nagkakaroon ng exploration, identity crisis, okay? What is your role then as a teacher? Of course, you should be there to guide these people in order to lead them to where they deserve, okay? And that's a spot that should be in favor of their welfare, okay? So since this is exploratory stage, your goal is to be a guide and to be a monitor, making sure that they will land on the spot that they deserve, okay? That will let them discover their potential. That's what I mean by the word deserve. Okay, hindi sila maliligaw ng landas. Okay, adolescent learners are in need of activities that meet their needs and learning expectations because I repeat, they easily get bored. So start with their needs and with their interests in order to make the session interactive, in order to make the session relevant to them. One technique would be to use strategies in which they could relate. Okay, madalas ang mga adolescent learners, they still want to play but a higher level of game. Okay, sa mga activities na ibibigay natin. Ano pa, ayan, they are more pag-love na ang pinag-uusapan. Ayan, diba? If you relate your topic to love, immediately you'll get their attention. Different social media sites, okay, gaming apps, ginagamit nila. You could use that as a way to motivate them to listen. So I repeat, it's very important that we study, okay, we discover their interests for us to know how to start, how to begin, or how to commence with our instruction. Okay, next, they are disruptive when bored. So you would notice in class that if they are bored, if they lost their interest, again, they are doing things that are not sometimes acceptable, sometimes not pleasing to the eyes of the teacher. So take this as a signal for you to recalibrate or think of another strategy to get the attention of the learner. Okay? Do not assume that you are not a good teacher. Just assume that you are not just using a strategy that fits the interests of this learner. So what to do? Change your strategy. Okay? That's the time that you're going to use plan B. Okay? Pag ganun na yung mga bagay-bagay na nakita mo inside the classroom. Okay, they are in need of teachers' constructive feedback. I repeat, they are in the exploratory stage. Still, they need your guidance. Unlike the adult learners, they already have the concept about life. They know what to do. They know how to react. They know they are responsible with the consequences of their action. But for adolescent learners, I repeat, they are still gaining the experience to become an adult learner, an expert learner. Yeah, but I'm not saying, I repeat, that all adult learners are expert learners. I could still see, okay, some, okay, and based on personal experience, that some adult learners are still novice learners. They haven't discovered yet what learning is or their own learning style. They still struggle, okay? Same with adolescent learners. There are adolescent learners naman na classified na as expert learners. Like early at this point, early at this stage of their lives, they already know their learning styles and they already appreciated what learning is. Okay? So I repeat, this adolescent learners still, mostly, okay, most of the time, they need teachers' constructive feedback to correct, okay, some misconceptions, some things which they did wrong. Okay, and expect that this stage is a trial and error, still a trial and error stage. Okay, next. They are resourceful in learning environment, including personal experience, the local community, and the internet. This is very obvious naman, no? When you teach adolescent learners, not as wide as the adult learners in terms of experience, but they could provide with their personal experiences, okay? Like you could ask these people to relate the lesson to their personal experiences. Pwede nang gawin yun, okay? But one common and observable trait of adolescent learners is that when you ask them to source out materials in the community, alam nila kung saan kukunin yan. Okay? At pag internet talaga ang pinag-uusapan naman, okay? Itong mga adolescent learners, ang dami nilang alam. And sometimes you will be surprised na yung alam nila, ngayon mo palang nalaman. Okay? Minsan nga sa atin, sa kanila pa dating natututunan. Okay? Because it's the digital age they were born. Therefore, it's understood that they are more digitally inclined. Okay, they are exposed to different social media sites and they have their phones. Okay, they grew up with phones. Okay, alam na nilang yung mga bagay-bagay, the different features about their phones, their smartphones. Okay. Okay, adolescent learners can learn abstract issues and do challenging activities. So just like the adult learners, okay, they are this adolescent learners have the ability to reason out also, to justify, to comprehend on abstract issues. Okay, ito na yung analysis, they will do synthesis, ayan. These are things that are challenging for the adult learner. So provide something that is challenging. Your activities should be challenging because if not, yung mga bagay-bagay na alam na nila, ayan. Kaya ang sinasabi ko lagi, as teachers, we should be unpredictable. There should be mystery when it comes to our strategy. Because once they already unlock your strategy, your ways, wala na. Katapusan mo na as teacher. They will easily get bored since they could already comprehend on what you're going to do. Na-solve na nila yung puzzle. Ayan ang gusto ng mga adolescent learners, solving puzzles. Okay? So, provide challenging activities. That's a suggestion that I could give. So, what type of challenging activities? Ano ba tong challenging activities na to, sir? Yung mga activities na hindi nila karaniwang ginagawa. It should be something different. Ayan, because adolescent learners want something different. But, I repeat, it should be instant. Gusto ng mga adolescent learners yan, yung instant. At yung mga activities mo, hindi yung isang activity magtatagal ng isang buwan, maiinit na sila. Okay? Consider also the time frame of conducting your activity. At huwag mong gamitin yung same strategy over and over again. Talagang maiinip yung mga yan. Okay? And like for adult learners, if you will do lecture all the time, like in graduate school, that's given that the adult learners would understand that it's the way of the teacher and they would listen because they are intrinsically motivated. But for adolescent learners and the young learners, they will not comprehend on your strategy. They will just comprehend based on their understanding. Okay? But pag nainip na sila, tama na. Hindi na ako makikinig. Okay? So whatever you do inside the classroom when you are in a class of adolescent learners or the young learners, do make sure that your activities are challenging. Okay, next, they are active only through meaningful involvement with relevant and current content. So it means that they will listen only, they will participate only if they find relevance and importance with what you are teaching. So what to do now? Before you start with your lesson, make sure that you explain the purpose of your session. Okay, in a way that they will realize that it will benefit them a lot. Okay, kaya nga sinasuggest na bago mag-umpisa sa isang discussion or sa isang lesson, state first the objectives and provide the visual map so they would know where the session is leading to. If you state the objectives, they know what to do. They have the direction, okay? And if you stated how they are going to use this in real life or outside the classroom, that this aspect will be used for their growth, okay, on this particular situation, in this particular context, they would listen, okay? So they become active, I repeat, only through meaningful involvement. So when does this involvement become meaningful? If it's relevant to them, if it's related to them, if it's something they could apply in their own lives. So that's how an adolescent learners learn. And those are the traits, those are their nature that we need to consider when teaching them. So anong difference niya ng adolescent to adult? In terms of interest, ayan. Yung adult learners kasi, they have this, what we call intrinsic motivation. Okay, na kahit hindi sila interesado, pag alam nila yung importante, it's part of the lesson, makikinig sila because they want to finish something. They want to accomplish something. They know that they will fail. Unlike for adolescent learners, medyo impulsive when it comes to decision making. Okay, that's why what we need to do is to provide this adolescent learners the insights, okay, the relevance of what we are teaching, insights about the relevance of what we are teaching. Okay, if they found relevance to what you are presenting to them, okay, they will definitely become active. Okay, let's move to the last topic for lesson 2, and that's the nature of learning among children and its educational implication. So most of you, I think, are taking elementary education, so we should emphasize on this. So how does a young learn? First, they can learn through talking about themselves, families, and their lives. So mapapansin nyo dyan, we are not, they do not state experiences. Okay? Because expect that young learners do not have yet this wide range of experiences. So ano lang ba yung meron sila about themselves, okay? About their families, okay? About their lives at home, in their compound, in their community. Madalas yan ang mga topic na meron tayo sa elementary. That when you ask them, when you relate your lesson, okay, you do not talk about abstract reasoning, you do not talk about life problems as those which are experienced by the adult. Okay? You talk about basic things like about themselves, about their interests, about what they watch, about their favorites, about their families. Okay? Tungkol sa nanay, sa tatay, at kung anong meron sa bahay nila. Okay? That's unique. Okay, that's common among young learners. Next, they are curious to learn and discover new concepts on their own. Ayan. They would like to explore everything too. Okay, na minsan kahit walang instruction sa teacher, kasi nga impulsive itong mga to, no? Gagawin nila. Kaya dapat si teacher, the teacher should be closely monitoring this type of learners. Because they will really explore even without your instruction. Excited sila eh. Gusto nilang gawin yung mga bagay-bagay. Kaya dapat laging nakabantay si teacher when dealing with a young learner. Especially nasa preparatory, grades 1, 2, and 3. Ayan. Dapat closely monitoring. Bawal iwan yung mga batang yan. Okay? Especially when they're doing classroom activities. Hindi pwede yung naiihiga, iiwan mo sila. Ask someone na magbabantay sa kanila while you are in the comfort room. Kahit isang minuto lang, it's dangerous for this type of learners. Again, curious to learn and discover new concepts on their own. Kaya maraming tanong dito. Lahat tinatanong, even those topics which are not related to the lesson. Pati nga yung suot ng teacher, yung lipstick na ginamit ni ma'am, okay, yung buhok ni ma'am, yung damit ni ma'am, bag ni ma'am, tatanong nila lahat yan. Okay? And straightforward ang mga batang yan. They are very straightforward. They are very frank. They really speak their minds. Kung ano nasa isip nila, express nila. They will express it. And like adolescent and adult learners, they already have this what we call control. Okay? But for this one, minsan matatawa pang, ay yung tactless ganun. Okay? They are very tactless when it comes to expressing their ideas. Most of the time. Next, young learner likes to use their imagination and discover things. That's why you would see some fantasy stories, a lot of fantasy stories about legends, okay, myths, ayan ang mga gusto nila, okay, for elementary learners. So they like to use their imagination and discover a lot of things. They are always excited, especially when you're doing physical activities, experimentation. Needs to touch, see, hear, and interact to learn. Okay. Unlike for adult learners, abstract reasoning would be enough. Okay. Because they already experienced this three. But for the young learners, when you teach, kailangan yung makikita nila, kailangan yung nahawakan nila. It should be something concrete. Okay. Interaction here referring to socializing with their peers because they need to learn from this socialization. They need to touch because they haven't touched these objects yet. Okay? They haven't seen these objects yet. They haven't heard the music yet. Kasi nga, wala pa silang experience. So, kailangan nilang gamitin yung senses nila. When we teach, we should use activities, we should use objects that would let these learners use their senses. Okay, na kapag pinag-uusapan natin ay different tastes, kunyari sa talk, di ba? May sour, sweet, ano pa ba? Bitter. kailangan manasahan nila, let them taste for them to know. Hindi pwedeng sasabihin mo that sweet is like this one, then you will just define sweet. No, they don't have a concept of that yet. They cannot comprehend on that yet. They will better learn if you will let them taste it. Okay? Ipakita mo, ipahawak mo, iparinig mo. Okay? Paamoy mo. Kaya nga sa elementary, ang daming instructional materials kasi nga, because of this reason. Okay? Lalo na sa kindergarten. Pagka laki-laki mga visuals because they need to see. Okay? Kanta sila ng kanta. May pa-music si teacher, pinapanood. Okay? They need to hear. Okay, next. Has a short attention span. Okay. And that's given, I repeat, kung maikli ang attention span ng adolescent learners, mas maikli ang attention span ng mga young learners. Okay? The more that you should motivate them in a way that they will really be motivated. How? Again, know their interests, okay? Know their favorites, and let's start from there. Okay? Kung paborito nila si SpongeBob, di umpisahan mo ang lesson about SpongeBob. Okay? Marirelate naman yan. If the teacher is very creative, you can relate this interest into your lesson. That's a way to motivate your learners. Okay? They like to cooperate and work in groups. Okay, of course, socializing, having friends. They like doing that. Yung independent learning, yung sila mag-isa, pwede naman, but most of the time, they would like to work. They think of working in groups as a form of play. Ayan. Gusto nila yung naglalaro. Okay. They need support and encouragement while learning. Kung ang adolescent learners, they need guidance, the more that this young learners need guidance. Dahil foundation itong mga to. Okay? Kung ang high school student, ang mga teenagers, nangangailangan ng constructive feedback, lalo na yung mga mas batang mag-aaral. They have to be guided. Okay? They have to be guided because this part or this stage is very crucial. We are building the foundation. We are establishing the foundation. Na kapag establish ang foundation, solid ang foundation ng bata, okay, sa elementary, madadala niya yan hanggang high school, hanggang college. So this is the challenge now to students, the aspiring teachers taking up elementary education. Yung mga tinuturo natin in elementary, sa tingin ng iba, simple lang, no? Yung mga topics. But then again, this should be solid. Okay? Yung mga basic na iniisip ng iba, kailangan solid na naituro sa mga bata. Like yung pagbasa. Okay? Just to share my experience, even in high school, at present, you would see learners, high school, adolescent learners who cannot read. So what do you expect from this learner who will be involved with a lot of reading? Okay? Pero pag solido na yung reading comprehension, reading skills ng bata, may ilaraos na yung high school, may iraraos na yung college. Okay? Pero hirap na hirap kapag hindi marunong magbasa at nakatuntong na ng high school. So, we teach the basic skills, the foundational skills in elementary. And that's a challenge on you. That's a challenge on you. In the future, make effort, exert effort to ensure that learning will take place. Okay, na yung tinatawag nilang simpleng lessons, mga basic lessons, talagang natutunan ng bata. Because these things, basic nga yung lesson, no? But you know what? In dealing with learners, pinakamahirap na maki-interact, naturuan yung mga bata. Kasi nga, because of short attention span, and they don't have this what we call intrinsic motivation. Extrinsic pa yung kailangan nila. May mga pa-reward pa dyan, pa-star para makinig sila. Okay? So, the last one, they need to work individually. However, they need guidance. So, when they work individually, there should be the guidance either of the teacher or of the parent. At instructin natin yung mga magulang na huwag naman silang gumawa nung pinapagawa ng teacher. Okay? When we say guidance, okay, when we say guide your kid, make them realize and make them understand that Guidance is not you, the parent, doing the task for the child. Guidance means monitoring. Okay, guidance means assessing the work of the child, giving suggestions, giving feedback, okay, on what to improve. Na kung drawing yan, anong kulay yung maganda? Ito po. Magsasuggest ka na baka hindi naman akma yung kulay na pinili niya dun sa object na kukulayan niya. Okay, you suggest or ask questions. Yan ba yung kulay na yan ng object na yan? Diba binili natin yan doon, dito, o nung binili natin na yung kulay? Okay? Make the child remember. Okay? But do not directly replace, okay, the child on the things that he should learn. Ikaw na yung natuto. Okay? So it's also our task as teachers to remind parents that when we ask for guidance, what we mean is that we ask them to monitor the progress of their child. Okay. We have now the comparison between adolescent and adult learners. So pedagogy for the young learners and then andragogy for the adult learners. Okay, for pedagogy, it's teacher structured. No, yes, of course. You create your plan, you devise your plan, ikaw magde-decision dyan. Okay, based on your understanding of the needs and interests of the learners. But for the adult learners, it's learner structured. Okay, pwede ka na mag-solicit ng suggestion from these people. Kaya nga, di ba kanina, it's important that you ask adult learners on how they would like to learn. You should not impose. Okay? Kasi yung mga yan, I repeat, are independent learners. So they can already decide for themselves. Unlike yung mga young learners, they need assistance. They need guidance. Okay? Because in terms of decision making, hindi pa ganun kasalido yung experience nila. Okay? Unlike the adult learners. Next, for pedagogy, minimal control by the learner. More on the teacher. Control in terms of activities. Okay? Control in terms of the strategies. Control in terms of the direction. Control in terms of how would you like to conduct the activity. And like for the adult learners, less control. Just provide the syllabus, just provide the topic. Even without you discussing the topic, they could learn because they know the ways on how to learn. Okay? Okay, for adult learners, assimilation of learning from the past experiences. Okay, always relate, okay, new learning to past experiences. Like how they would apply this into real life too. And of course, they will source from their past experiences when they justify. Okay? Kaya nga abstract reasoning ang pinag-usapan natin. These people are very opinionated because they already gained the experiences. So use those experiences as a take-off for discussion. Okay, for the young learners, they are more of convergent thinkers. Unlike the adult learners, they are more of divergent thinkers. Okay? So, pag converge, diba, imi-meet sa isa. Pag diverge, palabas. Okay? So, this is now your call that when you provide activities for young learners, it should be something that addresses their convergent thinking. Okay, same with the adult learners. Okay, the questions that you raise should be about divergent thinking. It should fit divergent thinking. Okay, since you know that the adult learners are already established when it comes to their learning styles. They already know their learning styles. They already have a concept of the world. Okay? What you need to do is to raise questions that would call for their experiences, that would call for reasoning, that would, minsan yung mga complex issues, okay? Social issues, real life issues. Okay? And dyan sila interesado. Politics. And like for the young learners, since they are still impulsive, okay, they still explore on the things that they need to know. you should be there to guide. Okay? Uh, I know it's very clear, it's a common knowledge that the young learners are more of memory. Ayan, matalas ang memory. Kaya nga yung pang kasunod, di ba? They focus on memory. Kaya kahit ilang enumeration pa yan, identification at definition, kaya nilang gawin. Unlike for the adult learners, pag pinamemorize mo yan, my God, medyo nahihirapan na, no? Because they are more of reason. They are more of doing. They are more of planning, devising plans. Ayan. Yan na yung interesado sila. Mga bagay-bagay na interesado sila. So, more complex way of thinking for the adult learners. Okay. For pedagogy, content is supplied by the teacher. Unlike for the andragogy, content is supplied by the students. Kaya nga, di ba, may reporting pa, may presentation, oral presentation. Just give the topic, then let the learner explore. Let the learner research, adult learner research, and then they could deliver. Expect that they could deliver because they already discovered the ways on how to learn something. Alam na nila yung gagawin nila. Okay? But for pedagogy, most of the time, I think 95% siguro, ganun yung calculations natin. 95% of the time, we provide the content. Okay? Because I repeat, since wala pa silang concept yung self-learning, I mean, a solid concept of their learning styles. Okay? Yung mga ibang bagay kung paano matutunan yung mga topics na binibigay mo ay hindi pa nila alam on their own. So you should be there to guide, to supply, but not to spoon feed. But I repeat, minsan nag-spoon feed na kapag dumating na sa punto na kailangan na. Okay? Yung ibibigay mo na para ma-realize na ganun na siya. Okay? Na ganun yung topic na yun. Okay, last, comparison. Based on specified content standards, and like for the andragogy, outcomes evolve as learning progresses. So this one, for pedagogy, you would see in the lesson plan the expected outcomes, the expectations of the teachers. Okay? Clear na kung ano yung kailangan i-expect, kailangan gawin. But for the andragogy, you cannot decide na ang outcome dito gagamitin. Kasi minsan madidiscover nila o madidiscover ng mga mag-aaral mo, adult learners, na yung tinuturo mo pwede palang gamitin sa ibang aspeto. And you will be surprised. Okay? Because they already know how to comprehend. They already know what to do with the learner. And they will use that based on what they have, based on their experiences. So yung experiences nila, hindi katulad ng experiences mo. Na yung tinuro mo pala, pwede palang gamitin sa aspetong yun. Hindi lang sa aspetong alam mo. Okay? But for here, for pedagogy, yung outcomes, okay, the output are already specified in this what we call content standards. So, nasa curriculum guide na kung anong kailangan nilang gawin, kailangan nilang matutunan na skill. But in here, it evolves as learning progresses for adult learning. Okay, so that will be all for our first part, okay, of the discussion. That's lesson 2, the child, adolescent, and adult learning. So lesson here is that you should differ your strategy. You should differ your approach as a teacher when dealing with a child, with the adolescent, and adult